Clear. So we'll go ahead and get
Okay.
the presenter role transition to Shelby. Shelby Law is our next speaker. We'll come back to Matt, and hopefully he can resolve his internet difficulties he's having. Shelby began as a STEP student at the Great Basin Coordination Center in 2002 and was permanently hired upon her graduation from the University of Utah with a degree in meteorology in 2006. She quickly became involved in NFDRS and began teaching S491 and S591. She has helped rewrite the S491 curriculum and is vice chair of the S591 steering committee. She's also the chair of the newly created Fire Danger Curriculum Management Unit and is currently the business lead for the new Fire Environment Mapping System project, which she's going to talk about today. Shelby's a part-time employee, and when not working, she's wrangling her 4 young kids. And if I know what that's like, you're doing lots of laundry too. So welcome, Shelby.
Thank you. Yes, I am just, let me pull up here. Okay, you guys can see my screen here?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, great. All right, well, I'm going to be talking about 2 topics. The first one is FEMS. This was actually coined by Matt, and this is a lot of, Matt's the brainchild for these things, and especially this project. So a lot of this came from his idea, from working in the lab, and we're just trying to take it and run with it. So FEMS stands for the Fire Environment Mapping System. So we'll cover that, and then I'll talk a little bit about some training that we're developing, attempting to develop on the fire danger side. So what is FEMS? FEMS is a repository of fire environment data, which also provides a mechanism for utilizing that data to create various fire danger and risk models that are made available to both human and machine users. And FEMS also includes an interactive user interface. So breaking it down a little bit more, what we're doing with FEMS is bringing all of our historical and forecasted fire environment databases into one big cloud-based data cache. So we're bringing all that data in, and then we're going to also run models on that data on the cloud, processing, like, for example, right now we're starting with the fire danger models. We're starting with NFDRS, but we will be bringing in the Canadian model in as well very quickly, and we'll be producing the gridded hourly values. This data will sit on that FEMS data cache, and then that data will be available to any application needing gridded weather, fire danger, or whatever other fire environment data is available there. And then we'll also be building a suite of web-based user tools, which will display fire danger data, as well as allow users to interact with that data. So we're replacing WIMS through this process, and we're also, I shouldn't say replacing, but we're going to be building an online version of Fire Family Plus, essentially. Probably won't look the same. We'll be including some new statistics, but users will be able to analyze all of the fire environment data that's available, not just weather and fire occurrence, which is what you can do in Fire Family Plus now. And we do know that data becomes exponentially more useful the more of it there is in one place. And so that's what we're really attempting to do, is bring all the data into one location, do cool stuff with it, and serve it out to whoever wants to use it. So this is kind of what we're looking at. I mean, this is just sort of a basic, very big picture overview, but the weather that we're bringing in is gridded forecast weather. As we transition to FEMS, we are bringing in a lot more gridded data. We have a historical gridded data set that was purchased 4 or 5 years ago from the Forest Service, or purchased by the Forest Service from NOAA, and we're just working on getting the last pieces of that data set. It's a 30-year historical gridded data set, which includes Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico. It's all of the U.S. and its territories. We'll also be bringing in the historical RAWS data, as well as all the RAWS observations going forward, and historical lightning data, which right now is kind of difficult to get to. And so we're hoping to solve that problem by just bringing it all in-house and creating our own user interfaces with that. As far as fuels, we'll also be bringing the National Fuel Moisture Database and fuel loading forecasts and observations that come available. We really love to see new gridded information in the fuels area coming forward to bring into FEMS to use for our analysis. That's going to be critical for predictive services, new 7-day applications, or any of the new analysis that we're trying to do to really incorporate more fuels layers that are out there. For fire currents, we'll also bring in whatever is available, whether it be from Irwin, Inform, or Modis. We'll bring those all into the data cache. Some data, of course, will reside in the FEMS data cache, like the weather and fuels. The fire currents we may just pull from their services. We'll run the processors. Right now, like I said, we're starting with NFDRS, but we'll be adding the Canadian system and potentially more modeling services down the road. It just depends on how successful FEMS is and how easy it is for everyone. And then this data will go out to display on the web, on phones, similar to kind of, there are some similarities with the Wildfire Safe app that Matt was talking about, just a little bit. And then the data will feed directly into other agency applications like WFDS, Irwin, IFTDIS. Whoever wants the data can access it. It'll feed to the geographic areas, any of their web displays that they're doing. And then we'll also go into future forecasting, like I mentioned, the new 7-day that's coming up, any new fire models that need to be developed can access this data to develop them. We're really hoping with this system to bridge the gap from research to operations as well. We know there's a big hurdle from getting new science and new models from the research community into an operational ATO'd environment that folks can use. And so we're really trying to help bridge that gap as we go forward. FEMS phases are shown here. I won't go into too much detail here, but basically we're going to start gathering the data. We're going to start with a development of we're calling it FEMS.5 interface. So that's like attempting to start to replace the WIMS. It's going to have colors and dots and graphs and point and clicks and all that cool stuff. And then in phase 2, we'll be developing the RESTful service for the gridded NFDRS as well as the, so first we'll be doing the weather, then we'll be doing the NFDRS services. And then we'll bring in the additional fire environment data sets like lightning, fuel moisture, and fuel loading. And then we'll develop the web-based tools to interact with that data. We have been working with our stakeholders. There are many. So all the FAMIT applications, WIMS, WFDS, IFTDIS, Irwin, and then all the user groups, a lot of the subcommittees in the Fire Environment Committee touch this data or are interested in either using the data or putting their models in it somehow. And so everyone's got a little bit of a stake in here. Dispatch community for sure, data management, Rocky Mountain Research, of course, and even WRCC and NOAA. So we have a lot of user groups to work with as we go through this project. Here's our timeline, and you guys probably know what it's like to put a timeline in a PowerPoint and show it to people, but it's fairly aggressive, I think, but we're going to go for it. So May of 2021, we're hoping to have a FEMS 0.5 user interface available for testing. That user interface will just use point data from WIMS. We won't be using the gridded data yet because those services won't be available yet. But the gridded weather service we're hoping to deploy this winter also. And then by May of 2022, we'll be releasing FEMS 1.0 for testing, and that will include all of the gridded data. And we'll be deploying the other fire environment services, such as gridded NFDRS and fuel moisture and things like that. And then we're hoping by May of 2023, we can do the full transition from WIMS to FEMS, and then include those additional analysis tools. I didn't give too much background as to why we're developing FEMS. It's been a long recognized need in fence, really, and you guys probably know this better than I do even, but it's been a long recognized need to make this data flow better. Our weather and our fire danger data it's just not well managed. It's not well taken care of. So that was the attempt with FEMS. And the other piece here is that Matt's new model, NFDRS 16, won't run properly in the current version of WIMS. It can't handle hourly data. And so that's a problem. And so FEMS will also fix that problem. And so there were a lot of different reasons why we needed to develop FEMS and push it forward. So we do have a project manager. We're working through the WIFIT process. I mean, we have already worked through the WIFIT process and have the approvals and funding, and so now it's just a matter of getting all the ATO securities and building the thing. So, but we're moving along, and I am a naive person in this regard. I'm optimistic. So hopefully we can meet these deadlines. One other thing, we are standing up what we're calling the FEMS design group. So we're looking for 1 or 2 reps from each of the NWCG business areas that deal with FEMS data to sit on this group. And how we're setting it up is that each of the business areas are going to be stewards of data sets that reside within FEMS. So the historical gridded data, the historical gridded weather data, the fire weather subcommittee is going to steward. The National Fuel Moisture Database is going to be stewarded by the Fuels Committee. And so we really want to put some ownership of those data sets back into the hands of the business areas so that the project itself isn't making decisions about data sets. That should really be made by the business areas. And so these liaisons that sit on the FEMS design group are going to act as that method to get approval for data sets to be put on FEMS and for new models to be put on FEMS and all this sort of thing. They'll also provide guidance on the development of the user interface, and we'll be doing, of course, different releases of that to get feedback and make sure it's meeting the needs of the community. And then the liaisons will also make sure we're appropriately connected with all the applications that are going to use that data. So are there any that we're missing? You know, we've got the big ones, but are there other applications out there, maybe in the research community or different agencies that we need to make sure we're connecting with, that they have access to our data properly. So that FEMS design group has its first meeting next week, and we're going to get rocking and rolling on all that stuff. So I think that's my last slide on FEMS, and I know we're holding questions until later, right, Diane?
Yep, we'll hold them to the very end if that's okay.
Okay, perfect. So then I'll just slide into the next topic here, which is the Fire Danger Curriculum Management Unit, FDCMU. So this is a new unit that was just created this year. I know Fire Behavior has had a unit like this for a couple of years, or I don't know how long. So Fire Danger just got one with the new organization of the NWCG, and I'm the chair of that one. And so what we're working on right now is creating lower level remote learning material for the Fire Danger training series. And we know another long recognized need has been that there's only one Fire Danger course, and that's 491. And so by the time people actually get any good quality training on Fire Danger, they're already basically in the manager position. And so we wanted to create some lower level learning that would get into those early years with the firefighter training. So this is just a draft. I'm just showing it here to kind of give a little bit of a sense of what our thoughts are, because I know a lot of you are involved in this type of work. And so we're going to propose essentially creating 191, 291, 391, and 491, kind of following the same path as the Fire Behavior series, and generally the same target audiences for each of those courses. Like I said, 191 through 391 will most likely be online and shorter, right? So 191 will be like maybe 2 to 4 hours, and it's just really that basic intro of what Fire Danger is and how we use it, where to access the tools. I do have another slide here, which are the main objectives that we've discussed for each of those courses. So I'm not going to go through them all here, but just kind of taking people through and feeding them a little bit more each level. And then when they get to 491, they're kind of capping out with the Fire Danger operating plans, subordinate plans, really becoming proficient in Fire Family Plus. And then if they were to go on to the 591 for the advanced concepts, we didn't really cover that in what we're doing here. So that's what we're trying to do. One other thing we did talk about, and we established this need, is that we have kind of almost 2 different tracks for Fire Danger education. It may be similar for Fire Behavior as well, but there's like a manager group out there who really needs to know how to use this stuff in a day-to-day operational setting, but does not need to know how to create it. They don't need to know how GSI and the live fuel moisture model works. They do need to know what an FDRA is and what is comprised of a preparedness level, for example, how an ERC is created. So we have recognized that need to create like a Fire Danger for Managers course. And so that's just something we're also talking about and thinking about how we could maybe include that in another fire manager course so we don't have to do our own standalone version. But those are just some of the thoughts. Like I said, we're a newly created unit, but we were really anxious to get to work on this. We don't have any, I mean, we're just barely starting to work with NWCG training in an official capacity. And so please take this for, it is just a draft. It's just an idea. It's what we'd like to see, but no one has blessed it to be created yet. So we're still navigating that process. And that's all I had to share today. I'm trying to keep it pretty broad overview, but I'll take questions when you're ready for them. And thank you.